I thought Tron was a load of garbage when I first saw it, and when I really first started digging into it when it first came into the scene, but I'll admit it, I was wrong. What is up, Hash Nation? Today is Tuesday, meaning it is Token Talk Tuesday. Today we are talking about Tron and why I am a converted believer in TRX and Tron going into 2019. Let's hash it out. Guys, really quickly, before we get started, if this is your first time here and we're just meeting, my name is Forrest. I'm an Ethereum developer, and I am here on this channel to help you build your knowledge, boost your cryptocurrency gains, and join the movement towards our distributed, decentralized future. So if that sounds good to you, smash that subscribe button and hit that little bell notification button like you mean it, so we can hang out every single time I post a video. Let's dive into it. As some of you may know, Tron, or TRX on the charts, is a blockchain platform that made quite a lot of waves in 2017 in the news, and a lot of those were kind of questionable about whether or not this project was a pump and dump scam. And to be honest with you, I thought it was at first. I thought that because it didn't have a minimum viable product, because it didn't have really much else than a lot of moon boys saying it was going to $10,000 and we should all buy it or we're stupid, I kind of wrote it off and I didn't even really give it a chance. Now, having been able to use Tron and build an application on the mainnet for my job, I now realize that I was a little premature in writing Tron off. I'm very impressed as a developer with what I've seen from Tron, so I wanted to share it with you guys, let you guys know what I think about it, and tell you what I know about Tron so that you can also make that decision for yourself. Oh, and question of the day, what do you guys think about Tron in 2019? Are you bullish, bearish, or do you not care at all? Let me know in that YouTube card above in the poll. I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say. First things first, what are the details? What is Tron? Tron is really trying to be a lot like Ethereum and the EOSs of the world. It's trying to be an operating system or an ecosystem on which people can build decentralized applications. So all in all, Tron is a blockchain application ecosystem, and one of its claims to fame, and I guess the claim that Justin Sun, the main founder of Tron, is trying to make, is that it can be more scalable, more highly available, and overall more cost effective than the other options out there. So that means Ethereum and EOS and really pretty much all the other ones. And to be honest with you, as an Ethereum developer, I actually welcome this because Ethereum really does need some competition, and I think Tron actually is placed to be that competition. On the surface, Tron is actually a lot like Ethereum. There are a lot of things that make it very similar and comparable to Ethereum. It uses the same Solidity smart contract coding language. The virtual machine is very similar to Ethereum's with a few crucial but minor differences. And beyond that, Tron is trying to accomplish the same goal, which is to make decentralized applications mainstream and available to developers and users alike. It uses delegated proof of stake, which is a consensus algorithm that's derived from proof of stake. And as you may know, Ethereum is really trying to push its Casper proof of stake methodology in its upcoming updates to the Serenity protocol for Ethereum, and it's not coming anytime really soon. So now looking at Tron as an alternative for developers that want to start working with proof of stake, it's very interesting that delegated proof of stake is on mainnet and it's working in the Tron ecosystem. And if you're not familiar with what delegated proof of stake is, I'm going to quickly explain it to you and how it works in the Tron ecosystem. Now, the key to the delegated proof of stake environment within Tron is the idea of a super representative, and that is basically a node that has the responsibility of creating blocks, so generating blocks, maintaining the rules of the network, and driving that network forward. These super representatives are actually elected on a rolling basis by the entire network, or those who participate in the voting process. And anyone can become a super representative as long as they have the base level of wealth, which at the moment is 9,999 TRX tokens. And at only a couple cents per token, it's actually not a whole lot of money to be able to have that responsibility or to be put up for election. And the reason why elections are done on a rolling basis is to prevent long-term power grabs by people who just continue to take power and hold it for a long period of time. The process is really as follows. On a rotating basis, every 6 hours approximately, 27 new super representatives are selected on a voted election basis. And during this process, everyone in the network is able to participate as long as they're willing to freeze some Tron tokens. And that kind of leads us to step number 2. To vote for a super representative, any individual can freeze a certain number of Tron tokens in order to have the privilege to vote for a super representative. And this gives them a non-token value that is called Tron power. So anytime someone freezes tokens, they get Tron power equal to the number of tokens that they froze. This is a one-to-one relationship, meaning if you were to freeze 127 Tron TRX tokens, you are also going to be awarded 127 units of Tron power by the network. Now, this isn't a token, but this is something that's used as an incentive in the Tron network. Anyone who does agree to freeze some of their Tron tokens to get the privilege to vote for the super representative is given a choice. And basically there are a pool of candidates that are eligible to be super representatives, as we discussed before, and anyone who has frozen those tokens and gotten the privilege to vote can vote for their super representative. And at the end of this voting process, 27 super representatives will have been elected, and they will then be the elected miner or the elected official to help drive the network forward. And there are 27 of them, so it's not singular power. Granted, people can question the centralization of this type of process, but at the end of the day, it's 27 different delegates, different people that are going to help drive the network forward and enforce the rules of the network. Now, here's where game theory kind of comes into play, because whenever consensus is discussed, there's always got to be an incentive to do the right thing and a disincentive to do the wrong thing in order for it to work properly. First of all, what I really like is that Tron users and really just the people that use the network are incentivized and encouraged to participate and directly influence the way that the network runs. And that's by electing the people or the nodes that eventually help drive that network forward and enforce those rules. So that encourages participation, which is important, and people undervalue that sometimes. And any of those people who are voting can theoretically put themselves up to be a super representative. So it's not prohibitive in terms of who can and who can't, at least right now at the current token price. Furthermore, super representatives get re-elected on a rotating basis, so that every 6 hours. And in order to be re-elected, they really need to appease the people that are electing them. And at the end of the day, that means they need to keep transaction throughput levels up. They need to keep the network running smoothly. They can't be doing sketchy stuff, because ultimately they have to win the votes of the people that are on the Tron network. And so if they don't do the right thing or they do something wrong, they're losing the opportunity to get the rewards that they could potentially have as a super representative on the Tron network. And thus there are those checks and balances that are implemented in the Tron system that I think are pretty unique to Tron and some of the other delegated proof of stake ecosystems. Now, I touched a little bit on rewards, and as a super delegate or a super representative in a proof of stake environment, you are able to get both block rewards and vote rewards. And block rewards are pretty standard. It's 32 TRX or Tron tokens per block that is generated while you're a super representative. And furthermore, you get a certain number of Tron tokens based on how many votes you get as a super representative candidate or super representative. And that's super important because those tokens, those rewards, are things that you can use as an incentive to encourage people to vote for you again. So if you're a super representative, you can say, I'm not gonna claim any of the block rewards. I'm gonna pass that back to those of you who have voted for me. So that encourages people to vote for you. So there's a little bit of freedom, even if you're a user or if you're a super representative, to be creative about how you encourage people to play by the rules, how you encourage people to vote for you. Whether or not that's abused is hard to say at this point, but we'll see. In my experience as a developer coming from the Ethereum ecosystem and truly pretty biased towards the Ethereum ecosystem as a developer, I'm actually very impressed with what I saw from Tron. The documentation and the amount of information available to get started as a developer was top notch. You'd be so surprised at how few projects get this correct. Make it easy for developers to use your platform, because that's what is going to help you win in the end. And beyond that, it's really easy for an Ethereum developer to jump from Ethereum over to Tron because they use Solidity. The virtual machine within Tron works very similarly to Ethereum, but without gas. And that's something that I really enjoyed. While I understand the reason why gas is important in Ethereum, it's such a pain to deal with. It's such a pain to use as a developer. And even the most talented developers sometimes struggle trying to manage the expectations of high security, high efficiency, and gas efficiency, and all this extra stuff that happens in Ethereum. It can be very, very troublesome. So I was refreshed to experience something in Tron without gas, and that's really just efficient and more scalable with a higher transaction throughput. One little nitpick is that I hope they introduce other languages other than Solidity, because Solidity is a slippery slope for even the most experienced developers. And that's one thing that I think they can improve on, but hopefully down the line they will do that. Now that they're on Mainnet and Delegated Proof of Stake is well underway, even with its due criticisms, I'm very impressed with Tron. But there are a few things that I think I want to look out for in the future that they should be looking to improve upon. First is the Tron power system. I'm still unclear about how freezing your tokens, and of course the inflation aspect to that is great. Being able to slow inflation by freezing tokens and preventing new tokens from being created during block generation, etc. That's great. But I'm trying to figure out how Tron power could potentially be used more as an asset than a liability in Tron. And maybe one of those ways is to have Tron power, the number of tokens that you freeze, be the weight of your vote. So if you froze 3,000 Tron tokens and you cast your vote, it would weigh more in percentage versus a person who froze 200 tokens and voted in the Tron ecosystem with Tron power. So that's just a thought. Maybe that's something they can implement. I'm also wondering whether or not this proof of stake variant, this delegated proof of stake, will become centralized in any way over time. Because obviously we've seen with proof of work, even something that is very good, very strong, has its flaws and definitely needs to be improved. So we'll have to watch that as time goes on. Furthermore, will the Tron developer team continue to make it easy for other developers from other projects to develop on the ecosystem? I've seen Justin Sun on Twitter constantly saying, hey, Ethereum is having trouble. Maybe you should come over and join Tron and start developing things. And as fate would have it, I've developed some things on Tron and I would definitely not hesitate to do it again. So that may be a possibility that people move from Ethereum over to Tron. I want to see that continuous updates are made to the Tron virtual machine and to the protocol itself. Because as we've seen with Ethereum, the updates have been very slow. And people have been very frustrated with how things have gone all the way from miners over to developers. Ethereum has moved very slowly, and I understand these things are very difficult, and I empathize with the developers who are trying to make this stuff real. But Tron can really gather some market share here if they're able to implement things more effectively and quicker than Ethereum and the other competitors that it has, and that's just the truth about it. The first mover may end up winning. Honestly, guys, I thought Tron was a load of garbage when I first saw it, and when I really first started digging into it when it first came into the scene, but I'll admit it, I was wrong. When I actually developed with Tron, I worked with the Tron ecosystem and I built something. I was actually very impressed with how mature it is compared to some of its peers at this point in time. Compared to where it was, it's night and day. They're on Mainnet, they have an MVP, they have developers building things, they have some buy-in. Delegated proof of stake is working pretty well right now, and I'm very interested to see what will happen in 2019. I have to say, I'm pretty bullish, guys. I really am. And guys, let me know in the comments below if there's a token or a project that you originally thought was garbage, but you're kind of second guessing now and thinking, hey, maybe there's some merit to this. Let me know about that in the comments below. If you wouldn't mind, check out this Token Talk Tuesday playlist and this awesome video right here. I have them on interactive cards for you to click. I'm super appreciative that you're here, guys. I'm super appreciative to have you watching my content. Thank you so much. Cheers.